You didn't press play by accident. This video didn't just pop up for you like a loose piece of the internet. It found you today because, in some quiet part of your being, you asked for a sign. And I'll strip away the illusion right from the start. A sign is not a guide. A sign is a mirror. A sign doesn't come to decide your path. It comes to reveal the state you've already been carrying. The world doesn't hold up a sign saying, "Go this way," or "Don't go." The world simply projects with precision the vibration you've been sustaining when no one is looking. Notice the mechanism. When you say, "I asked for a sign," you're almost always saying something else, just with prettier words. You're saying, "I don't trust myself. I haven't chosen. I want something out there to push me. I want permission not to take the risk." That's why so many people collect coincidences as if they were collecting amulets. They see a repeated number, find a phrase, cross paths with someone, feel a shiver and think, "There, now I know." But what you call knowing is just momentary relief. You used a symbol to numb the doubt. And as long as you do that, you'll continue living as someone who asks for permission to exist. What I'm giving you today is this. Stop treating a sign as a cause and start treating it as a consequence. The sign doesn't create your life. It reveals your internal direction. Life is like a calm lake. What appears on the surface is a reflection of what lies beneath, not the other way around. If you're trying to change the reflection with your hand, you'll only stir the water and create more distortion. The real change is below in your state. Look at your own experience. How many times have you asked for a sign and received one, and yet you didn't truly change? You had the feeling that reality answered you, but then you returned to the same thought pattern, the same fear in new clothes, the same habit of waiting. Why? Because you wanted a symbol to replace discipline. You wanted an external answer to avoid an internal decision, and the world obediently gave you what you asked for. More things for you to interpret, more coincidences for you to collect, and no transformation for you to sustain. I want you to see this clearly using a simple image. Imagine a navigator on the open sea. He doesn't ask the wind for a sign every time he raises a sail. He chooses a destination and adjusts his course. The wind changes, yes. The clouds mislead, yes. Sometimes the sea seems to challenge you. But someone who knows how to navigate doesn't ask the ocean if they can continue. They continue. The navigator's sign is their own steady course. They are not guided by a bird that crossed the sky. They are guided by the internal state of someone who has decided to arrive. When something catches your attention today, when a coincidence makes your chest tremble, don't kneel before it as if it were an oracle. Use it as a diagnosis. Ask, what inside of me is seeking confirmation? What part of me still wants to be carried? Because every search for a sign usually hides the same poison, fear of being wrong. And fear of being wrong traps you in the worst prison because it looks like prudence. You say, "I'll wait a little longer. I'll analyze. I'll see if it happens again," and you call that caution. But it's just elegant escape, and elegant escape is still escape. And here's the difference between the weak and the trained. The weak want a sign that confirms doubt. The trained create a state that renders confirmation unnecessary. The internal sign is not an event, it's a stability. It's when you feel, for no visible reason, the stillness of someone who has already crossed over. It's when you look at the same landscape and realize that something within you has shifted. Your mind may continue trying to negotiate, but you, deep down, have already decided. That is the true sign, the decision that asks for no applause. Now, if this has truly resonated with you, I'm going to pause for a few seconds with something practical, because I know how it works. You can agree with every word and still wake up tomorrow and fall back into the old habit of looking for proof, asking for confirmation, returning to the not yet state. If you want to transform this understanding into daily practice, there's material in the pinned comment that serves exactly this purpose. Organizing your practice, guiding you through simple and consistent exercises, and keeping you steady when your mind wants to negotiate with appearances. If you take it seriously, you'll stop living on flashes of insight and start building mastery. The next point is where most people fail because it requires courage. Not courage to fight against the world, but courage to stop negotiating with appearances. You don't change your life by waiting for a sign and then changing internally. You change internally and make the world produce compatible signs, because the state comes first. The state is the mold, the world is the molten metal. Metal doesn't argue with the mold, metal takes shape. See what happens when you desire something, but carry the almost state. Almost confident, almost ready, almost deserving, almost capable. The almost is an artist. It constructs delays with elegant justifications. It creates encounters that don't materialize, opportunities that seem promising and then slip away, money that comes in and disappears, energy that rises and falls. And you call these confusing signs. They are not confusing signs. It's your confused state projecting an ambiguous life. Installing a state is different from repeating a phrase. It's entering life with the internal posture of someone who already belongs to the outcome. It's not fantasy, it's command. An actor doesn't become a king by putting on a crown. They become a king when they decide on the voice, the rhythm, the gaze, and the firmness of their body. The crown on stage merely accompanies. It's the same with you. As long as you wait for the world to give you the crown before behaving like a king, you remain a servant. The state is the prior decision. But I don't feel it. Of course you don't feel it, because you've trained yourself to feel only when the outside confirms it. You've been educated to depend. You've learned to light up inside only when reality flips the switch. Reverse that. Light up from within and let reality chase your brilliance. And don't give me the excuse of I can't. What you call I can't is just a lack of training. No one is born mastering a language. No one is born playing an instrument. And no one is born sustaining an elevated state under pressure. This is built. Choose a simple, short, drama-free final scene. A conversation where you are treated with respect. A confirmation notification, an instant of relief, a table where you pay effortlessly, a day when you wake up without the weight of worry. Don't invent complex drama. The mind loves to complicate in order to postpone. The final scene is an emotional arrival point. Take that and do one thing. For a few minutes each day, enter that scene as if entering a room that is already yours. Don't think someday, think now. The body is the guardian of habit, and it only learns through emotional repetition, not through theory. And then comes the inner vow, which is what separates amateurs from the disciplined. For a set period, you will not negotiate with appearances. This is not about repressing emotion. Emotion rises and falls. It's about not turning emotion into a decree. You can feel fear and still sustain the state. You can have a difficult day and still not revert to your old character. The state is the captain. Emotion is the sea. A rough sea doesn't change the destination, it just demands a steady hand. When you start to sustain, something curious happens. The signs change their nature. You don't go hunting for coincidences. You start to recognize alignments. You perceive opportunities that were previously invisible because you were looking through the eyes of scarcity. You feel this aligns with me instead of, I hope this works out. Your language changes. And when your internal language changes, your external reality reorganizes the scenery. Now I'm going to give you a shift that provides immediate power, if you have the maturity to use it. The world doesn't send you meanings, the world offers you facts. Meaning is glue that you apply. What you call a sign is often a neutral fact that you interpreted with the language of your state. Two people experience the same event and come away with different lives because they didn't experience the same meaning. One reads threat, another reads training. One reads rejection, another reads redirection. One reads failure, another reads adjustment. Imagine your mind is like a flashlight in a forest at night. The entire forest exists, but you only see where you shine the light. If you're in a state of fear, the flashlight seeks glowing eyes, shadows, noises, and you say, the forest is dangerous. If you are in a state of mastery, the flashlight seeks paths, markers, routes, and you say the forest has a path. The forest hasn't changed. You change the light, and reality obeys you in the most subtle and powerful way. It shows you more of what your light is prepared to recognize. Therefore, symbolic interpretation is not superstition. Superstition is disguised weakness. Symbolic interpretation is the power of meaning-making. You take what happens and turn it into fuel for your chosen state. A door closes. Great, you gained clarity. A delay arises. Great, you gain time to adjust your posture. Someone disappears. Great, you gain space for the version that corresponds to your new pattern. You don't become naive, you become sovereign. Sovereignty isn't controlling events, it's controlling meaning. Whoever controls meaning controls their state, and whoever controls their state sees reality bend. I'm going to tell you a short story, because stories can overcome resistance that words sometimes cannot. A man carried an old torn map. Every time the wind blew, he held the map tightly, and the paper tore further. He complained about the wind, blamed the sky, until someone said, "Stop fighting the wind and protect the map." The wind wasn't the enemy. The enemy was his desperate attachment to the fragile map. When he tucked the map into his chest and looked at the stars, the route became clearer. The map was the old state. The stars were the new internal command. The wind was merely life-testing whether he would despair or lead. There comes a moment when you realize that asking for signs has become an addiction. You wake up, and before living, you want a confirmation. You look at your phone and call it intuition. You search for a phrase, a message, a video, and call it direction. But it's a hunger for certainty, and a hunger for certainty is a lack of identity. A firm identity doesn't ask for proof at every turn. A firm identity walks and lets the path open behind it. And that's why I'm now going to touch on a point that demands respect. Your identity needs to be more loyal than your daily mood. Many people say, "I've chosen a new state," in a moment of inspiration, and then, right at the beginning, when the body feels heavy and the mind complains, they revert to their old character. They call this being realistic. It's not realism. It's a betrayal of the state. You don't need motivation, you need loyalty. Loyalty here isn't blind stubbornness. It's silent steadfastness. It's continuing to behave as if you belong, even when the world hasn't yet organized the details. It's like someone who planted a seed and the next day digs up the earth to see if it's working. That person isn't careful, they are anxious. And anxiety uproots what is still growing. The state is the patient gardener. It waters, cares for, protects, and doesn't demand a show. The test of identity isn't in what you declare publicly, it's in what you tolerate in secret. How do you talk to yourself when you make a mistake? How do you react when you receive silence? What do you accept as normal just because it's customary? An assumed identity changes your tolerance threshold. Certain attitudes start to seem too small for you. Certain excuses lose their flavor. You don't need to fight with the past, you simply no longer fit in it. And here enters an internal gesture I want you to learn, like someone learning to close a door without slamming it. The elegant refusal. Refusing an appearance isn't yelling at it. It's not pretending it doesn't exist. Elegant refusal is looking at the fact and denying its authority. It's saying internally, "You're just a photograph from the past, you're not my destiny." It's looking at a bad day and not turning it into a prophecy. It's looking at a low number, a cold response, a delay, and not falling to your knees before it as if it were the final judge of your story. Elegant refusal is also stopping arguments with people and situations as if they were the source of your state. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to announce changes. The state is a silent command, and silence is part of the power. Those who announce too much are asking for validation. Those who ask for validation are still trying to be. Those who are, don't beg for approval. I'll give you another image because the brain understands better when it visualizes. Think of a sculptor facing a raw block. He doesn't keep asking the marble if it's going to work out. He sees the form before it exists. Every strike of the chisel is a decision that seems aggressive to those who don't know the plan. On the outside, it's stone being broken. On the inside, it's the figure being freed. Such is your state. At first, it seems like you are forcing something, because the old habit wants to keep you round, predictable, just like yesterday. But the new state demands cuts. It demands abandoning old reactions. It demands saying no to the old impulse to ask for a sign when your mind becomes restless. And observe, the sculptor doesn't change the strike because a piece fell differently. He adjusts his hand, but maintains the design. You also need to learn to adjust without abandoning. Most people abandon the design at the slightest noise. A comment knocks you down. A delay confuses you. A piece of news drains you and you go back to asking for a sign like someone asking to be held. This is immaturity of consciousness. Maturity is remaining in the design. And now, to close with the final key, I'm going to tell you a truth that will hurt those who like to live in expectation. You don't get what you want. You get what you sustain when the enthusiasm has already faded. Reality doesn't respond to your emotional peak. It responds to your consistency. It responds to what you maintain when no one is watching you, when the day is ordinary, when the initial sparkle has disappeared. Most people want the final scene without the training of the state. They want results like someone who wants a medal without running. But there are no shortcuts here. Consistency is authority. Consistency is the signature of the true state. Here's a detail almost no one applies. You need to create state anchors in your daily life. Small actions that remind your body who's in charge. It could be the way you make your bed, the way you walk, the way you breathe before responding, the way you hold your phone without urgency, the way you look in the mirror without judging yourself. It seems trivial, but it's not. The body is the temple of habit, and habit is the language of the state. If you continue acting with the hurriedness of someone who is late, you are telling the world, I live constantly chasing things. And the world gives you what matches, more things to chase after. So choose a daily symbolic gesture, a minute of silence before starting the day, a small internal yes to your chosen state, a short walk where you walk like someone who has already won, a midday pause to re-enter the final scene and feel its normality. It's not mysticism, it's training. You're educating your internal system to accept a new pattern as normal. Normality is power. What is normal for you becomes inevitable in your life. And that's why I'm going to give you a simple, direct practice that seems small, but changes everything if you do it seriously. Before sleeping for 3 to 5 minutes, you will remove your focus from the problem as if removing a thorn. It's not to deny the world, it's to deny the problem's throne. You will enter the feeling of the problem being resolved. Choose a short internal gesture, a sigh of relief, a discreet smile, peace in your chest, the naturalness of someone who already lives that reality. Imagine a minimal scene, like a living photograph. You closing your eyes and saying, finally. You walking with lightness, you responding to a message naturally, you hearing someone tell you it worked out, and you inwardly not being surprised. Sustain it until your body accepts it, because the body is the document of your state. It signs your reality with sensation, not with opinion. And during the day, when the old state tries to pull you back, you won't dramatize it. You won't punish yourself. You won't turn it into a drama. You will return. Returning quickly is sovereignty. Staying down is submission. A musician misses a note and continues the music. A pilot corrects their course without yelling at the sky. The quick correction is proof that you are in command. And the faster you return to your chosen state, the faster the world reorganizes the signs, the people, the opportunities, and the details. Do you want to know if this video found you because you asked for a sign? I'll tell you yes, but not in the way you imagined. The sign isn't the video. The sign is the point within you that is still alive and tired of waiting. The sign is the part of you that wants to stop being held hostage by the outside. The sign is your own consciousness saying, no more begging. And when the old pattern tries to trap you, remember this scene. A train station where people stand on the platform looking at the clock, nervous, complaining, waiting for the announcement. Some spend their entire lives there, waiting for someone to say, now. But there are those who buy the ticket, choose their destination, and even with delays remain with their bags packed. It's not the loudspeaker that creates the journey, it's the decision. The announcement only confirms what has already been chosen. You weren't born to live on the platform of confirmation. You were born to walk even without an announcement, carrying certainty as your ticket. So I end with a command that is not for your emotion, but for your identity. From now on, stop begging for external changes. Stop asking permission from what you see. Stop turning coincidence into a crutch. Command, in silence and certainty, that your reality obey the state you have chosen to inhabit. Don't argue with appearances, just put them in their place, a delayed reflection. And when the reflection tries to scare you, you don't react as a victim. You react as the cause. And if you want a practical step to consolidate this new pattern and prevent it from becoming just another fleeting moment of inspiration, I reiterate the invitation. In the pinned comment, there's a link to material that helps you train consistency, maintain focus, and apply these principles in an organized way, with exercises and direction. Use that as a bridge between understanding and living, between hearing and embodying. You asked for a sign and it has already come. Now do what few do. Sustain the state until reality has no choice but to obey. Silent vow. The air entering your lungs carries a choice: to continue reacting to what the world shows, or to begin commanding what it will be. Because consciousness doesn't ask permission to create, it simply decides. And when you decide with feeling, the entire world reorganizes without resistance. True awakening doesn't happen when the body gets up, but when the mind remembers the power to assume. In that moment, I am stops being a phrase and returns to being a force. And whoever remembers this doesn't live waiting for miracles. They live as the miracle itself in motion. Nothing changes until you change the way you perceive yourself. This is the root of all creation, the point where the invisible takes form. The common person believes their life changes when something outside happens, when they find love, when money arrives, when the body heals. But all of that is just a shadow. The real cause is never in the facts, it is in consciousness. What you accept as true about yourself becomes law. You can change cities, jobs, or companions, but if you carry the same inner image with you, it will recreate the same circumstances, with different faces and names, because the inner state always prevails. There is no external force more powerful than the image a person holds of themselves. If they believe themselves unworthy, every opportunity will become a mirror of that belief. If they see themselves as small, the world will reduce them to the proportion of their thought. This is why many struggle so much and yet remain trapped in the same cycle. They act trying to alter the effects without ever touching the cause. And what is the cause? It is the feeling of being. Everything you create is born from what you believe yourself to be. If you want to transform the world, start with yourself, not with it. When you look in the mirror of the mind and say, I am insufficient, the universe doesn't argue with you, it simply agrees. When you say, I am prosperous, it also agrees. Consciousness is impersonal, it doesn't judge, it only reflects. Thus you never receive what you ask for, but what you are. Words can lie, but the inner state cannot. This is why many prayers seem unanswered, because people plead for abundance while vibrating in lack. They speak with the mouth of one who believes, but feel with the heart of one who doubts. And the universe always responds to the heart. Transforming your state is an act of courage. It requires you to abandon the old self, the one familiar to you, and inhabit a new being before seeing any signs. It's walking in the dark with the certainty that light is just ahead. Few do it because they still expect life to prove something before they believe. But the miracle only reveals itself to those who decide first. When you see yourself differently, the entire world begins to behave as if it knows this. People change, doors open, paths align, not because the outside has gained power, but because you have stopped resisting what you already are. So remember, nothing in the world is more important than the concept you hold of yourself. It is the invisible mold of your reality. Change it and everything changes. Don't expect the reflection to smile first, be the first to smile. And the mirror, obedient, will have no choice but to return the new face you've chosen to wear. The world doesn't react to your actions but to your vibration. This is what confuses almost everyone seeking to change their lives. They believe they need to do more, fight more, push fate with effort and sacrifice. But effort without consciousness is like pushing river water. All you achieve is exhaustion. The universe doesn't respond to the movement of your hands, but to the silent state you emanate as you act. Two people can make the same gesture, one with fear, the other with faith, and the result will be completely different, because the vibration sustaining the gesture is what defines the outcome. Vibration is not forced, it is chosen. It is the inner tone with which you say yes or no to life. If you do something in a hurry, believing you are late, the delay perpetuates itself. If you work with anxiety, failure draws near. If you give with fear of losing, you are already losing. What you emanate is what returns. Therefore, more important than what you do is the state in which you do it. The action is born from being, and being is what vibrates. It is impossible to deceive the law. It knows you not by your words, but by the energy you inhabit. When you move from doubt, everything becomes resistance. But when you act from certainty, even silence works in your favor. What is done in peace prospers because it is aligned with the natural flow of life. The river doesn't push the stones, it flows around them. Learn from it. Don't tire yourself trying to prove your worth to the world. Silence the inner noise and let movement come from the center. The right action is born from the right state, and when the state is correct, the outcome is inevitable. People believe vibration is something mystical, unattainable, but it is simple. It is the dominant feeling you sustain when no one is looking. It is the emotional climate you live in. If your climate is one of lack, even if you have everything, you will feel scarcity. If your climate is one of abundance, even without signs, you will already be harvesting. What you need is not more struggle, but more coherence. Act only when your heart is aligned with the desired outcome, and if it's not, don't move yet. The secret lies in making your state the starting point, not the final prize. You don't act to be, you act because you already are. When this truth settles in, the vibration stops oscillating, and life begins to respond with almost frightening precision. This is why the wise don't rush, don't plead, don't prove. They simply become what they desire, and the rest bows before what already is. Your state is a decision, not a result. This is one of the simplest truths and, at the same time, one of the hardest to live by. Most people believe they need to wait for circumstances to change, to feel something different. They wait for healing to feel peace, success to feel confident, love to feel worthy. But this is the biggest mistake, because life doesn't bring what you ask for. It brings what you are capable of emotionally sustaining. While you wait, you create distance. When you assume, you draw near. Everything you desire already exists, but it only manifests when you vibrate at the same frequency as what you want. Choosing a state is like choosing a role in the theater of existence. You can be whatever you want, but you need to act the part before receiving applause. Consciousness is the stage, and the world merely reflects your inner performance. If you live as someone waiting for the scenery to change before acting like a winner, you will spend your entire life in rehearsal. But if you choose to feel the role of someone who has already won, the world, obedient and precise, adjusts the scenery to your new role. The secret isn't to believe something will happen, but to live as if it has already happened. Some say, but I can't feel rich without money, loved without someone, healthy with pain. And that's where the law proves unchangeable. It's not the body that heals the feeling, it's the feeling that heals the body. It's not money that creates prosperity, It's the consciousness of prosperity that attracts money. You don't need to pretend, you need to assume. To pretend is to try to deceive the mind, to assume is to change identity, and identity changes everything. The decision to inhabit a new state is not made once, but sustained every instant. It's not enough to think I am prosperous in the morning and lament in the afternoon. The state must be continuous, a ground you walk on, not a thought you visit. This is why some people's results seem delayed. They jump from one state to another without remaining in any. Creation requires stability, and stability is born from inner repetition. Choosing your state is the greatest act of freedom there is, because it is independent of everything. You can be in a simple room and still feel worthy of kingdoms. You can have no one by your side and still vibrate love, because the love you create within you doesn't need another to exist. It is your remembered nature. True power is internal, silent, and continuous. When you choose a state and remain in it, time ceases to be an obstacle. Everything begins to move in your direction, not by chance, but by coherence. Because the universe doesn't respond to haste, it responds to permanence. Don't rely on signs, they are not confirmations but tests. The universe doesn't send you signs to prove everything will work out. It sends them to see if you still doubt. When a person awakens to the power of consciousness, the first impulse is to look for external evidence that their imagination is working. They observe the clock of the visible world and fret. Why hasn't it happened yet? Why has nothing changed? And it is precisely there that they reveal their disbelief. Because one who truly assumes doesn't seek proof. They know that the invisible is more real than any momentary fact. Manifestation is not a spectacle that comes with a warning. It is a silent birth. Everything already germinating in the invisible, before blossoming, will pass through a stage of contradiction. This is when the old state tries to survive, resisting change. And if in that moment you react to what you see, you return to the old state, and the cycle begins anew. This is why so many give up just before winning. They believe chaos is the end, when in reality it is the beginning. When everything seems to be going in the opposite direction, it's a sign that the invisible is reconfiguring itself to obey your new vibration. Don't judge what happens by what it seems, but by what it means. When you lose something, it might just be space opening up for the new. When someone leaves, perhaps the energetic field is purifying itself. When a plan collapses, it might just be the old collapsing so that the new can have structure. The human mind calls this bad luck, failure, delay. But the spirit understands. It is movement. And every movement, however strange it may seem, is taking you toward the state you chose to sustain. Appearances are the shadows of your old beliefs trying to stay alive. They provoke you, challenge you, ask for your reaction. But true faith doesn't react. It observes and remains. When you can look at chaos and still maintain the serenity of one who knows they have already won, in that instant you become untouchable. Because power is not in controlling the signs, but in remaining unperturbed in their presence. The secret is simple, but it requires maturity. Don't seek security in external changes, because all true security is born from the invisible. As long as you wait for the world to prove something to you, you will be denying your own creation. The proof is inner peace, nothing more. When the world seems to shout the opposite, smile in silence. It is in that calm smile, in the midst of the storm, that the universe bows and confirms they already understood. And then, the invisible becomes visible, not because you needed to see, but because you continued seeing when no one else did. The Creator acts in silence. This is where most people stumble, because the ego wants to make noise, wants to prove, wants to show results. But true power never announces itself. It simply is. The force of creation doesn't manifest in words, but in the stillness of one who knows. When you finally stop arguing with the world, justifying your dreams, and begging for change, something within you aligns with the invisible rhythm of the universe, and everything begins to move effortlessly. It is the inner silence that commands, not the discourse. The silence I speak of is not an absence of sound, but an absence of resistance. It is the space where you stop trying to control what is already underway. As long as your mind insists on intervening, doubting, measuring results, creative energy remains trapped. unable to flow. But when you cease the anxiety and simply assume, without needing to prove anything to anyone, the power begins to operate. People call this coincidence, fate, or luck, but none of that exists. What happens is that the invisible obeys those who trust. Those who create in silence are not still. They are profoundly active at the highest level of being. They visualize, feel, assume, and then remain still as a mountain. And the world, little by little, begins to reflect that state. Everything falls into place, because reality doesn't require effort to respond to a state sustained with conviction. The Creator doesn't push the river, they become the course of the water. When you understand this, you stop reacting. There is no more hurry, no fear, no need to convince. You know that what you have assumed is already in motion, even if you don't yet see it. Stillness becomes your language and time your ally. It is in this space of tranquility that the invisible works, shaping people, paths, and events to fulfill what you decreed within. Therefore, keep your intentions in silence. Don't explain your dreams to those who still live in doubt. Don't defend your visions to those who only see the visible. Create in silence, live in certainty, and watch the world bow to your vibration. Silence is the altar where the impossible dissolves. It is there that imagination ceases to be thought and becomes reality. When you finally learn not to react, not to justify, not to force, the universe understands. They remembered who they are, and then everything moves. Without warning, without noise, without effort. It simply fulfills itself. Now breathe. Let the air enter and leave, as if the universe itself breathes with you. Because that's exactly it. You and it were never two. Separation is merely the mind's dream, and suffering arises from forgetting who the dreamer truly is. Everything you've sought until today, love, success, healing, purpose, was trying to remind you of this. They weren't rewards, they were mirrors. Your entire life has been a conversation between your inner state and the stage outside. And every scene, every loss, every gain was merely reality's attempt to return you to your origin. You were taught to believe that power lies in actions, plans, others. That time and chance decide what you will be. But the truth precedes all of that. Your life begins the instant you decide who you are, and the world merely confirms it. You are not a being adrift waiting for favorable winds. You are the wind. And everything that moves the world begins with the invisible breath of your vibration. This is the key few accept, because it destroys the comfort of blaming fate. When you understand that you are the creator, there is no one left to blame, nor anything to wait for. There is only the sacred duty to assume. To assume is not to imagine that one day it will happen. It is to feel now that it has already happened. It is to walk around the house, speak, breathe, and think like one who already lives the desired outcome. Because consciousness does not know not yet. It only responds to is. Everything that vibrates within you in the present is an order that the universe fulfills with precision. And the more you sustain that state, the faster the invisible will take form. There is no prayer more effective than a convinced heart. There is no ritual more powerful than the peace of one who knows. Therefore, starting today, stop begging for signs. Stop pleading with the world to listen to you. You are the world speaking to itself. If you want to see change, change the tone of your inner voice. Instead of saying, "One day I will have," say, "It is already mine." Instead of waiting to be loved, feel love flowing from you. Instead of seeking security, become security. The state precedes the fact. Vibration precedes movement. Everything that is true is born first in the invisible. And remember, the universe doesn't understand doubt. It responds to clarity. You don't need to shout. Simply affirm with calm and conviction. Power is not in asking louder, but in knowing you have already been heard. So when the sun rises tomorrow, don't just awaken the body, awaken your being. Before any thought, silently affirm, "I am the creator of my reality. Everything I desire already lives within me." Sustain this feeling even when nothing seems to change. Sustain it until the world yields. Because it always yields. It has no choice before a spirit that has decided to remember itself. And when you truly remember, what you once called a miracle will become routine. Abundance will come effortlessly. Love will find you without seeking. Peace will cease to be a goal and become air. You didn't come into the world to survive. You came to create. So create. In silence, with certainty, with presence. And the universe, faithful as it always has been, will respond, so be it. You look around and believe that destiny is a roulette wheel, that random events accumulate and decide the course of life. But I tell you with all authority, there is no luck, no chance, no whim of external forces casting your paths to the wind. What you are experiencing now at this very moment is merely the echo of a decree already made within you, often without realizing it. Life is like a faithful mirror that invents nothing on its own. It merely reflects, with absolute precision, what consciousness has delivered to it as a model. And that is why a single word, when understood and used with conviction, can completely transform your reality in a matter of hours. The word is Amen. But not as you have been using it, as a formal period at the end of your prayers. Amen is not a farewell. It is not a religious formula. It is not an empty ritual. Amen is a seal. It is the invisible signature that closes doubt and opens certainty. It is the final hammer blow that drives the decree into the invisible. So it is confirmed, it has already happened. You pronounce it without thinking, but within it lies an ancient and unbreakable law. Everything sealed with Amen must manifest. Not because the external world wills it, but because the invisible has already accepted it as fact. Imagine a contract being signed in front of witnesses. When the pen touches the paper and the signature is made, no one discusses whether it will happen. It is signed. It is sealed. It is only a matter of time before the effects are felt. The same occurs with the conscious use of Amen. You can no longer use this word as if closing a lifeless prayer. You must use it as if stamping approval on your desired reality. If your heart asks for prosperity, do not say maybe someday. If the natural mind demands proof, do not engage in debates. Simply declare Amen. And there, at that instant, invisible life moves to organize the threads of reality in favor of what has been sealed. You need to understand that the natural mind is like a restless child, always asking for signs, always asking, has it arrived? Is it coming? But every time you say Amen, you silence it. You say, it is done. Ask me no more. This is the key to attracting within 24 hours what once seemed distant, because the universe cannot resist a decree sealed with conviction. It has no choice. It must obey the internal state that has already been affirmed. Do not treat Amen as an empty sound. Treat it as a sword. Each time you pronounce it silently or in a low voice, you are engraving into the invisible the certainty that what you desire already belongs to you. And when this is done consciously, the mind begins to change its stance. The body reacts. You move as one who already possesses. And in this state, everything accelerates, everything approaches, everything bows to the decree. You were not born to beg. You did not come to earth to implore external forces to decide for you. You came to decree. The power was given to you, but many waste it with doubts, with prayers of despair, with weightless words. Use Amen as a seal. Say Amen and let life do the rest. You will see money, opportunities, and miracles arrive unexpectedly, because the invisible cannot withstand the firmness of one who has already confirmed their inheritance. Amen is not the end. Amen is the beginning of manifestation. It is the certification that the work is already complete, even if human eyes do not see it. And from this moment, if you have the courage to seal your desires with this word and do not retreat, you will see within 24 hours that the external world bows to the internal decree. And when that happens, you will never again live as victims. You will live as creators. How many times have you found yourself surrounded by thoughts of doubt? It's as if an insistent, cruel inner voice tries to sabotage every confident step you take. You decide to believe you can prosper, but then comes the whisper. What if it doesn't work out? What if it's just imagination? What if you're deceiving yourself? This battle is not against people, nor against external circumstances. This war happens within you, and it is the natural mind trying to tie you to the old state, the state of limitation. It doesn't easily accept a new vision because it has been conditioned to trust only what the eyes see and what the senses prove. But it is precisely at this point that the word I give you becomes an invincible weapon. Amen. When doubt appears, most people tend to argue with it. The mind begins to question, and you respond by trying to explain, trying to convince, trying to bring logic to what is spiritual. And the more you argue, the more strength you give to the thought that should be silenced. The secret is not to argue, the secret is to seal. Instead of spending energy justifying why you believe, simply end the conversation with a decree. Amen. This word has the power to close the door, like someone locking a dark room so that nothing else can emerge from it. It cuts the cycle of doubt and establishes that what has been assumed is already confirmed. Consider this. You desire prosperity. The apparent reality is one of scarcity, perhaps even accumulated bills. You look at your bank balance and your mind screams, "It is impossible to change this quickly, there's no way." Normally you would try to think positive, or search for proof that it's possible, but the path is different. To each accusation from the mind, you respond internally. Amen. So it is. It is already signed in the invisible. There is no more room for negotiation. You don't argue with the bank, you don't argue with logic. You seal it like someone striking the gavel in court and closing the case. This conscious use of Amen tricks the natural mind because it expects a justification. It wants you to show it external proof to shut it up. But when you surprise it with a definitive answer, without explanation, just the seal, it no longer finds fertile ground. It loses its strength, and at that instant, your energy, which was previously wasted in internal discussions, begins to be used to sustain the vision of what you desire. The silence that Amen generates within is the space where the miracle begins to manifest. Imagine a person signing a sales contract. Before the signature, there are questions, doubts, negotiations, but the moment the pen marks the paper and the signature is made, it's over. There's no more conversation. It is signed. This is exactly how Amen works in the practice of imagination. Doubt may persist, but you have already stamped it. Amen. The invisible contract has been affirmed. The mind may even grumble, but it no longer has the power to change what has been sealed. And here is what few understand. The speed of manifestation depends on the firmness with which you seal your thoughts. Those who debate with doubt prolong the process. Those who immediately close the door with the seal of Amen shorten the path. That is why many things move in 24 hours. Because you did not allow the natural mind to grow roots of uncertainty. You did not feed the wavering. You simply sealed it, and the invisible, which is obedient, immediately began to work to align circumstances. So the next time doubt comes, don't explain, don't argue, don't plead. Respond only with the seal. Say internally, Amen. And remain silent, knowing that what has been sealed already is. This is the first move of authority, learning to end the conversation with the natural mind and not giving it the power to dictate your experience. Because where Amen exists, doubt no longer exists. And where there is no doubt, the miracle finds a swift path to manifest. Have you ever noticed that you often repeat beautiful words, affirmations, and even prayers, but feel that nothing truly changes? It's because the mind isn't convinced by sounds alone. It needs to be tricked by vivid images. Saying you believe in prosperity while inwardly seeing yourself in lack is like planting a seed in dry soil. No root can survive. The word Amen only reveals its strength when associated with a concrete inner vision. It's not enough to pronounce it. You must seal something that can already be seen within you. Close your eyes for an instant and see yourself exactly as you wish to be. See the bank statement with high figures. Imagine the deposit notification arriving on your phone. Feel your hands counting cash. Hear the sound of notes moving between your fingers. Don't imagine as someone watching a distant film. See yourself as the protagonist. Allow the scene to be so real in your mind that your body begins to react. Your heart accelerates, a smile appears, your breathing changes. It is at this moment that you declare internally, Amen. This word seals the scene and transforms it into fact. It is no longer in the realm of maybe someday, but in the domain of certainty. The common error is to use Amen automatically, as if it were just a period. But the true power lies in connecting it to a clear image, so strong that the natural mind cannot distinguish whether it is a memory or imagination. It simply accepts, and once accepted, it begins to organize the external world to correspond. The natural mind is limited, but imagination is infinite. When you seal a scene with Amen, there is no turning back. The decree has already been registered in the invisible. Many will say, "But I tried to visualize and felt nothing." That's because they were forcing it. It's not about effort, but about surrender. Let the scene come gently, even if simple. You signing a contract, receiving a message, paying a bill without worry. And when this scene arises, however small, declare Amen. Feel that it is signed. This simplicity is what cuts the cycle of doubt. Each image sealed with Amen is like a seed planted in the invisible garden. Some germinate in minutes, others in hours, but all are destined to sprout because they were watered with certainty. And what accelerates the process is precisely conscious repetition. Each time the scene returns, each time you seal it again, you are fertilizing, reinforcing, deepening the root of manifestation. Therefore, do not limit the word to cold repetition. Use it as the hammer that fixes the vision in the inner world. See, feel, and then declare, Amen. If you do this, you will not just be saying a word, but signing a sentence in the court of the invisible. And such a sentence cannot be annulled. It must be fulfilled in the visible world. It is almost inevitable. After sealing a desire within yourself, the natural mind begins to look around for proof. You find yourself repeating, "Has anything changed? Is it coming already? Is it really going to happen?" This impulse is the reflection of a consciousness still dependent on the external world. But here is the truth that few accept. Signs only appear after the inner seal, never before. The reflection does not anticipate the mirror's movement. First you assume within, then life reflects it externally. This is one of the biggest mistakes that delay manifestation. One says Amen in the morning, and by evening is already testing reality to see if there has been any response, like someone planting a seed and digging up the earth every hour to see if the root has sprouted. This behavior kills the process. The invisible does not move to prove to you that it is working. It moves to reflect the firm stance of one who no longer needs proof. When you seal inwardly, it's like signing a document. The signature already guarantees the contract, even before delivery. You don't beg the registry office to show you it's registered, you know. And this certainty is what opens the way for changes to appear quickly. Amen works exactly like this. It closes the case before your eyes can see any evidence. When you say Amen, you are affirming that you do not depend on signs to believe. You are decreeing that the invisible has already accepted the request, and that the visible world will merely follow the inevitable script. He who understands this stops monitoring circumstances and begins to monitor only their inner posture. Think of someone who needs money and seals their vision of abundance with Amen. If an unexpected bill appears the same day, the natural reaction would be to say, "See, nothing has changed." But this is the test. This is the moment to remain unshakable and respond, "Amen, it is already paid." Because what matters is not the external sign, but the internal seal. The external world is slow, dense. It needs time to reorganize itself. The invisible is instantaneous. The moment you seal, it is already done. The visible merely needs to align with the decree. The secret, therefore, is not to watch the world for indications. The secret is to rest in the seal. It is like trusting a package that has already been mailed. You done to see the package, but you know it's on its way because you received confirmation. Amen is that confirmation. Those who rush to seek signs demonstrate that they have not truly sealed. But those who seal and rest invariably see the miracle materialize in a few hours or days. Therefore, when the mind begins to press for proof, silence it firmly. Declare, Amen, and proceed as one who already possesses. This is true faith, not looking outward, but remaining unshakable within. And the result is inevitable. Sooner or later, and often in less than 24 hours, the external world will bow its knee before what was affirmed in your imagination. Have you noticed how the world always seems to want to strip away the confidence you've just embraced? Just decide you're going to prosper, and someone will come talking about a crisis. Just seal a vision of abundance, and an unexpected bill knocks at your door. The old state always tries to call your attention back. It is at this moment that most falter, because they let the external dictate the tone of the internal. But here is the key. Amen is not just a word to use in silence after visualizing. It is also a living response that needs to accompany every step of your day. When someone tells you it's difficult, the economy is broken, you don't need to debate or try to prove anything. Just declare internally, Amen to my abundance. This response cuts the root of external suggestion and keeps you firm in your state. When an unexpected bill appears, instead of being filled with fear and feeling defeated, respond inwardly. Amen, it is already paid. The visible world thinks it can force you to bow, but it doesn't realize that you carry within you a word that ends any threat. Each time you use Amen in this way, you are driving invisible stakes of certainty. It's like hammering a tent into firm ground. Each blow fixes it deeper until nothing can knock it down. The daily Amen is that hammer. It prevents you from being swept away by news, opinions, momentary circumstances. It is the word that transforms every external attack into an internal confirmation. Because every time you seal again, you affirm that the visible does not command you. It merely obeys. Understand that the most subtle enemy is the repetition of the environment. Hearing about crisis every day, seeing bills every day, it is natural to believe that this is your destiny. But when you bring Amen into every situation, you create a new habit, a new reflex. The mind begins to get used to responding with certainty, not despair. And this conditioning changes your vibration, changes your posture, changes your harvest. The invisible finds free passage because there are no more interruptions of doubt. This active use of Amen during the day is the most practical way to trick the natural mind. You catch it by surprise, not allowing it to build stories of fear. You cut the narrative before it grows, and in this silence, this cut, the decree is free to operate. Therefore, do not reserve Amen only for moments of prayer or imagination. Bring it into your routine. Use it as a shield and a sword. Every thought of scarcity, every word of crisis, every bill that tries to haunt you must be answered with this seal. Make this a natural reflex, and you will see how life begins to adjust quickly. Because a mind that responds with Amen in every situation is a mind that does not negotiate with doubt. And faced with this firmness, the world has no choice. It must bow and deliver exactly what you have already confirmed. To live as one who has already sealed everything is to definitively abandon the posture of someone who asks, pleads, or waits for signs to then believe. It is to assume the position of one who has already signed an irrevocable contract in the invisible and now simply enjoys the certainty that the world has no choice but to comply. Many still use the word Amen as a timid plea to heaven, but the true power lies in transforming it into the final seal of all things. After declaring Amen, you do not continue to beg for the same desire. Just as no one who has already signed a valid document returns to the registry office to ask for new confirmation, once sealed, it is done. The role of faith is to live as one who has already received. This means walking, speaking, and reacting as one who already has what they asked for. If you sealed abundance, do not speak like a poor person. Do not react like one who lives at the mercy of luck. Every gesture must carry the posture of one who already possesses. When your senses scream that nothing has changed, remember, the mirror takes an instant to reflect the movement, but it cannot fail. The invisible is immediate. The visible merely follows with a delay. Your role is not to monitor the delay, but to sustain the seal. Here is a point few understand. Living as one who has already sealed means no longer negotiating with the natural mind. When it tries to raise doubts, you don't argue, you don't explain, you don't pray again. You simply rest in Amen. And resting doesn't mean doing nothing, but acting in the world with the confidence of one who already is. You pay a bill as one who knows there will be more provision. You go to work or to a negotiation as one who already carries victory. You respond to circumstances with serenity because you have already decreed the end of the story. This is the courage that transforms the atmosphere around you in 24 hours. The invisible moves quickly, when it finds someone who no longer asks, but commands. And Amen is the silent command that cannot be reversed. Therefore, do not allow yourself to go back. Once the seal has been given, remain. Your posture is proof that you truly believed. He who continues to beg demonstrates that he signed nothing. He who seals and rests manifests. So the call is this: live as kings who have already issued their decree. Do not beg for approval. Do not wait for signs. Do not let yourselves be swayed by appearances. Everything is already written in the invisible, and the seal that guarantees it is simple and definitive. Amen. Each time you doubt, remember what has already been stamped. Each step you take it as one who already possesses. It is in this state that life bows, doors open, and money, opportunities, and miracles arrive so naturally that they will seem like coincidences. But you will know it was not by chance, it was the reflection of the seal. Everything you have heard so far points to a single truth. Life does not happen from the outside in, but from the inside out. The visible world is merely an echo, an inevitable reflection of what has been silently assumed in the heart. And the word I give you, Amen, is not a religious ornament, but the invisible seal that closes doubt and gives order to the invisible to manifest. When used consciously, it silences the natural mind, associates itself with vivid images of abundance, cuts off the need for signs, transforms into a firm response in the face of circumstances, and establishes the posture of one who already possesses. You are no longer authorized to live as beggars of life, imploring for external changes. That posture needs to die today. The call is to live as creators, as kings who decree with authority and rest in the certainty of the decree. Use Amen as the final hammer blow that seals what you desire. Use it to cut the cycle of doubt, to engrave the desired scene into the invisible, to respond to the provocations of the external world, and to walk as one who already has. From now on, every true desire that arises within you should not be treated with uncertainty, but sealed immediately with this word. Do not allow the natural mind to drag you back to wavering. The power lies in remaining firm in the seal, because what is affirmed in the invisible must by law manifest in the visible. So rise up, stop waiting for signs and begging for answers. Open your mouth, declare within yourself with conviction, and make Amen the irrevocable sentence of your life. Because when you seal in this way, the universe has no alternative. It bows, it obeys, it delivers. And you will see in less than a day that what seemed impossible was already written, already guaranteed, already alive within you. Amen is not the end. Amen is the beginning of manifestation.